Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm Senior Editor Denton Davidson here with Jessi Dean, the hair department head on National Geographic's Genius MLKX. Jessi, what were your initial thoughts when you were hired for this job and the magnitude of these characters? There had to be a lot of pressure to get this right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I felt privileged and honored for the opportunity to even, translate history in such a way. And I rolled my sleeves up and dove into the research and, and the creating began.
What was the most challenging aspect of replicating period-specific hairstyles, specifically for Martin and Malcolm, and showing how looks evolve over different decades?
Uh, you know, Working with our shooting schedule for one, our infamous shooting schedule, the continuity and keeping up with their younger and aging looks, that was pretty challenging.
And for Malcolm specifically, his hair changes even just dramatically from when he goes into jail to when he comes out. So how do you portray like an evolution of even that amount of time change and I mean, it's just the smallest details that you have to pay attention to.
Okay, so Malcolm, he was chemically processed before he went into jail, and so understanding the rate of hair growth, just trying to capture that contrast of texture of his natural hair versus the chemically processed hair. Um, I had to, create that with product to kind of revert the wig and give texture differences that way.
And when you look back at them as children, what sort of research does it take to understand what they would look like? Because obviously we have so many pictures of them as adults. So
Right.
imagining you have to imagine them as children and what their parents would have looked like for that time period.
Yeah, understanding the time period, the normalcy of generally children's hair, shapes, and afro hair shapes and texture as far as looking at the pictures and really dissecting, you know, um, hormonal changes, prior to and trying to, tell a story that way. So, yeah, Malcolm's hair was, coilier and longer, and Martin's was shorter and cut closely.
Was
Mhm.
it difficult to find the right shade of red wig for Aaron Pierre as Malcolm? I'm assuming it's a wig because I would like insight on that because you have to be accurate, but you also have to make sure Aaron looks natural and good in that color.
Absolutely. And then we have to consider lighting, we have to consider all these other sorts of things. So yeah, I combined three different shades of reds to get that color, that shade that we all see. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
And talk a little bit about Coretta and Betty and their looks, their personal style, how they differed, and what you enjoyed most about styling those two women.
Wow. Such style and grace and strength in both women. Um, just walking through the different lifestyles of both the different social economic backgrounds of each, and telling that story in a way of trying of individually speaking. Was for Betty, I did not have as many resources of pictures, but to just try to infer where she was in her space and time as a mother, as a wife, Coretta, same for both actually, just mothers. They were mothers and they were,
Yeah.
wives, and just the natural hair component of it all, the prepping at night, um, you know, I just had such an honor of being able to tell these stories through these women, you know.
And talk a little bit about, you know, making sure we see what it's like for them to be home rather than out in public. And I mean, creating those looks and really thinking hard about I mean, we didn't see that side of them in the history books. So imagining that, their personal lives.
Yeah, the prep at night, the pin curling, the rolling, the protecting of hair at night, that was a thing, that is still a thing, but specifically back then with such poised and graceful women, and at night there was pin curling, there was paper bag rolling, there was sponge rolling, there was, and wrapping and making sure that hair was protected at night while sleeping.
And something like 75 or more wigs on this show. Is
Mhm.
that true? Like, what sort of team are you managing to accomplish that? What's going on back
A
there?
team of highly creative individuals and with gifted hands, my gosh, yes. And that had just, it was such a bonding, such a great time to really explore different upbringings and collab in that way and just make sure that we were telling the story in an authentic, as close to a period authentic way as we could for Black hair.
Talk about the importance of portraying Black hair, specifically in that authentic way, and why it's so important for a project like this.
Well, it's extremely important to be able to express that their Black hair is we have so many nuances of our expression and just the travel and time of it all. It's extremely important to understand that we care, we have such pride in our expression, and for it to be expressed in different periods of time shows where we were and then where we're going.
And even weather. I mean, I heard you were very specific, even if it was like a little humid, you know, Coretta's hair might get a little
Mhm.
frizzy. So like you were very diligent in choosing specific looks depending on even weather.
Yeah, because our hair changes, the texture changes, if and so I wanted to be able to show that it was prepped one way and then weather may have affected it this way. So I wanted the texture to ring through.
What was it like just working with the cast? Because I've interviewed most of them. They have such different personalities. Aaron was telling me he's very serious. He was like, people didn't even hear my real accent until the final cut. And then Calvin and Weyruche, they were like sort of cutting up. Like, so what's it like working on them? Do you give them silence so they can focus, or does it vary based on the actor? What was it like
It
to,
varies based on the actor. Absolutely. Yes.
so go ahead.
Yeah. It just does. I take their lead, on whatever they're vibing on. That's what I'm gonna give them.
Was
Yeah,
it a fun cast to work with?
absolutely. Tons of.
And Weyruche, I thought, looked so much like Coretta. What was that like when you saw, the finished product and you looked at her? Was it as shocking to you as it was for me as a viewer?
It was very rewarding. I mean, wow. Like we all were like, it sent chills on
Yeah.
our initial meeting with Baruch. It really did.
What for you was the most profound when you saw the series completed? Because you're working behind the scenes, but then when you get to see the finished cut and you watch the series like everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
what was it like for you to see your work on screen like that?
Was so just I was so very honored,
Yeah.
so very proud. I you never know, how things are gonna, come together. And to think about how hard my team and I really worked to convey and tell this story. The legacies are still living on, and to be able to translate that visually was has been the most rewarding part of my career.
Yeah.
So I felt really, really honored to be a
And
part.
you're just a girl from Chicago. You didn't have connections to Hollywood. Talk
No.
about that break for you. What led, did you always have a passion for hair? And was film and TV always the end goal for you?
I've always had a passion for hair. I always played with my baby dolls, as I call them. I even call the wigs baby dolls. Fun facts. But yeah, I've always had a passion for hair. And end goal, it's interesting you say it's television and film. And end goal, that's what I've been asking myself lately, but I didn't know how I would even end up here. Like, just, speaking with you right now, I have chills. You may see my nervousness. Yeah, I didn't know that. I can only imagine, and my wildest dreams are coming true right now, just sitting here. So I don't know if it's the end goal, but it was a huge goal.
Yeah. What was the first show that you broke onto? What was that first sort of celebrity break?
Celebrity break would be the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Well, that's a pretty decent start.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, it was Oprah. I mean, I can't remember. Um, that
Yes, Oprah was, yeah, it was daytime television. But
so she gave you some good recommendations.
well, just for experience for sure.
Yeah.
Experience, yes.
And then how do you feel like the industry is now for you specifically? I mean, we hear a lot about actors who have difficulty with, certain hairdressers being able to do their hair. And now that we're seeing more Black hairdressers in the industry, and I know there needs to be more, I'm curious from a hairdresser's perspective, um, for you and your work, do you ever feel pigeonholed in the types of jobs you could be offered and like they're like, oh, she could do Viola Davis's hair, but not Nicole Kidman's. Things like that. I mean,
Mhm.
how is the industry evolving in terms of that and making sure, everyone is well versed in all types of hair and have opportunity?
We have a ways to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just we just have a long ways to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on this project and what you'll take away from it and what it all means to you.
Final thoughts is that, you know, legacies will continue to live on through this project, and I'm very, very proud to have been a part of it. And yeah, that's my takeaway.
It was great to see just the human side of them. Like,
Absolutely. That
yeah,
that I mean, that part of it, the sacrificial component of these two legacies, they, they were human, and they cultivated, and they progressed, and they pushed, and they conquered, in my opinion.
yeah, it's a great series. It's streaming on Hulu and Disney Plus. Jessi,
Mhm.
congratulations on some really great work on Genius MLKX. And I hope those Emmy nominations call out some names for the show this year because it really was a great series. And I hope you're proud of your work. You really should be.
Yes, I am extremely proud of me and my team's work. Yes, I am.